All right. So, what I want to talk to you guys this week about, it's probably a topic that I've heard 10 or 15 times in the last 2 weeks, if not more than that, about holiday weight gain. So, you eat a free meal, you eat a cheat meal, you eat Christmas dinner, New Year's dinner, whatever the case may be, and you wake up 4 pounds heavier, you freak out, you text me, what did I do wrong? Right. And we always just get overly, um, I don't think stimulated is the right word, but we overly freak out a little bit, right? You eat a little something extra and you wake up heavier, right? So what's the deal there? So that's what we're going to talk about today: holiday weight gain, what to do, how to combat that, and what it actually is. And so just maybe even starting, from last night. So you went out last night for New Year's like Caleb did, and that's why he missed his check-in this morning. And you woke up 3 pounds heavier. And I know a lot of you that'll freak you out, right? And I often get messages about this, telling me that either, hey, I had a cheat meal, and then the following morning I woke up 4 to 5 pounds heavier. That's what that indication is going to be on, the little weight graph this week in the check-in. That's what that's from, right? Um, and so it's important to keep in mind during a time like this, that when you eat a cheat meal, and we see the scale jump up overnight, that it's important to understand that this is not fat gain. The majority of it is going to be mostly water weight. And Ren just joined in, and Ren can definitely attest to cheat meals and 5 to 10 pound fluctuations at times with cheat meals. So I'm sure he'll enjoy this one too.
Damn,
Um,
I came in right at the right time.
um, And so when you consume more food, especially carbohydrates than usual, your body is going to store that extra glycogen, whether that be in your muscles or it's going to be in your liver. And along with extra carbs is always going to come water, right? For every gram of glycogen stored, accompanies 3 grams of water. So yeah, you might have woke up 2 or 3 pounds heavier, but the majority of that, again, is going to be water retention. Um, and then on the back side of that, if you guys remember from our lecture, I don't know, maybe a month or so ago, water follows sodium, sodium follows water, vice versa, that kind of thing. And a lot of time, these cheat meals, free meals, holiday meals are going to contain a ton of sodium, right? It's just, I mean, really can't get around that. We can't really tell grandma to not add salt to her macaroni and cheese, right? It just is what it is at that point. This is going to cause your body to retain water weight as it tries, to balance these electrolyte levels out. Um, so if you eat foods that contain a ton of salt, you will retain a ton of water. This is a combination of that glycogen storage and water retention, which is going to cause that noticeable increase on the scale weight that next morning. Another factor is just the sheer volume of food, right? So I know that everybody here, to an extent, is weighing their food out to some degree, right? Whether if you count in macros or you're eating a set meal plan, if you weigh out, let's just say, 200 grams of chicken, and 300 grams of rice, right? That's 500 grams of voluminous food on your stomach right now. If you took a plate of mac and cheese, the cornbread, the chicken, the cream corn. I mean, just a family food, right? Thanksgiving meal, Christmas meal, that meal might could weigh 1,500, 100 grams, right? So just the sheer volume of food, and liquid consumed, that obviously takes a little bit longer to digest, and it's going to sit on your stomach a little bit longer as well, too. Again, a noticeable increase on the scale that next morning. I mean, your body is not going to clear that food in 6 to 8 hours that you're sleeping, right? Like it's going to take a day or two for that to come off. And then if you just even, consume things that you probably aren't used, to consuming when, eating a quote unquote healthier lifestyle, like fatty, fried, sugary foods, things like that, all those are going to bring along temporary inflammation. Which is going to lead to bloating, feeling heavier, and again, it'll take a day or two to come off. You can see a perfect example of this probably every single one of you on this call now, you can look back at your day one picture and look at your picture probably 2 weeks later, and you can see that drop of inflammation just fall off from eating bad foods to 2 weeks of eating decent foods. That inflammation is going to drop off drastically. You're going to look a little bit leaner. You're going to not have those water weight held on your body, in itself, and it's just your body is just dropping that systemic inflammation from that. I don't want to call a food bad, but a poor food choice, right? Let's just call it that. Um, and so if we get to the actual task at hand, though, like okay, cool, all this is good and well, but what if one of those 4 pounds is fat, right? Well, let's backtrack a second and let's think how many calories does it take to actually put on 1 pound of body fat? I'm sure somebody in this knows that. Does anybody here know that? How many extra calories it takes to put on 1 pound of body fat? Anybody here know?
3,000.
But you're close. 3,500. So for you to gain an actual pound of fat, it's going to take you 3,500 additional calories. So I mean, I haven't ate a McDonald's in a long time, so I don't know how many calories is in a Big Mac meal and things like that. But from that post I made last week, it would probably take at least 2 to 3 Big Mac meals with fries and a drink to equate 3,500 calories, right? That's a good bit of food. So more than likely, your meal last night on New Year's Eve or your Christmas Eve dinner or your Thanksgiving dinner, you more than likely did not eat an additional 3,500 calories above your maintenance. So if your maintenance is, 3,000 calories, you add 3,500 on top of that. Nobody is probably eating 6,500 calories in that single meal to actually accrue 1 pound of fat overnight, right? If that makes sense. Now, if you really, just went off the deep end and you, um, inherited the seafood diet that night where you ate everything that you've seen, right? The seafood diet. You see it, you eat it, right? That's the seafood diet. Then yeah, you might could have added on a pound of fat, but you would really have to overdo it to do that. Um, Now the next question is how do you fix it? And the answer to that is very simple. Um, you don't panic and you get back on track the next day. You overhydrate. You make sure that you get your steps in, get some kind of movement. Whether that be steps or just a workout, things like that. Because again, if you remember, salt follows water and water follows salt. So again, overhydrate to flush all that extra sodium out, which is going to help drop those extra pounds off of the scale. And again, I always tell you guys, do not get tied up on a number on the scale, right? But I know it can be a mind game on some people because they get overly infatuated with that number. But it's gonna come down. Just give it a day or two if you can get back on plan. Now, if you are one of them people who have a cheat meal or a free meal and then that spirals into the next day and the next day, then yeah, you're probably going to add on some body fat. But that's when you got to realize that hey, this one meal, it's okay. It's okay. Tomorrow, I gotta get back on plan. Right. That's the main thing. Um, and if you really think that you overdid it the day before, it's always 100% okay to just eat high protein and veggies for that day. Just skip the carbohydrates. And I say that now to say carbs are not the enemy. But the day after that you've overconsumed something, your glycogen stores are full. You're overspilling at that point. So again, chicken, veggies, things like that for a couple of meals a day wouldn't be a bad idea to help flush all that extra stuff out and just keep you, satiated during the day too. Um, high fiber foods as well too, which again could be veggies, berries, things like that is always a good idea. Um, and then really the last thing is just to keep it in perspective. So if you eat 4 meals a day and we times that about 365, that's like I think it's like 14 something, 1,460 somewhere in there. Anyway, 1% of that is 15 or so. So I always tell people it does matter what you do in that 3 to 4 times frame in between Christmas and that couple day time frame in between Thanksgiving and the New Year's, July 4th, Easter, all that good stuff. But when you take a step back and say, okay, if I'm eating 4 meals a day, 1% of me, 1% of those meals across the entire year spread out is 15 meals, right? And I'm not saying that to say, okay, you can screw off for 15 meals a year. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm just saying that these 1 or 2 meals during Christmas, 1 or 2 meals during Thanksgiving is so insignificant that it shouldn't let it bother you, right? It's such a small number. Just eat the meal, move on, have the cake, have the macaroni and cheese, have whatever that your grandma makes, whatever. Just get what you enjoy and just move on. And then the next day, just understand, hey, if I want to continue seeing progress, the next day back on it. Steps, higher water intake. If you need, to lower your food intake a little bit and just eat protein and veggies, that's fine too. But at the end of the day, enjoy the meal the next day because you can't reverse what you just done. You don't need to go to the gym and do 2 hours of cardio because that's kind of counterintuitive. Just wake up the next day, just get right back on it, and you'll be fine. So the main point here is don't overly stress about if you have a free meal and you wake up 2, 3 pounds heavier. It's kind of is what it is at that point. There's nothing that you can do about it. Just get back on it the next day. So, and I will say, as you develop your metabolism and you get it to a spot to where it's running efficiently, and this is not a brag on me by any means, but I could eat god awful for one day, which I don't. I typically don't. But if it's just like one meal, I'll wake up 3 to 4 pounds heavier or lighter, um, just because my body is like, ooh, what is this extra food here? Let me crank this metabolism up and get it out of this system ASAP. ASAP. On the whole week that we were on vacation 2 weeks ago, I mean, I ate about 6 meals a day. Each meal had about 50 grams of protein in it, a little bit of carbohydrates, and if I wanted a cookie, I got a cookie. If I wanted a little piece of a little piece of cake, I got a piece. It was vacation, right? I enjoyed myself. I come back 5 pounds lighter out of eating whatever I wanted to eat, within those parameters, right? I didn't eat like an asshole the whole time, right? I still, got my protein intake in and my, for the most part, the calories in, but still, once you get to the point to where your body is quote unquote trained, um, those cheat meals can help you. Again, that just about like everything else, it just takes time, just what it boils down to. So, but I thought that small lesson today was fitting with it being the day after New Year's, and I've seen some people's weights go in this morning, and they were higher than normal. So I figured that was a good refresher, a reminder. So, does anybody got any questions or anything about how any of that stuff works? Does all that stuff make good sense, or just questions in general at all?
Dang.
Anybody got any questions, anything at all? I know you're dying to ask one, Jacob. What you got?
No, I don't have any questions, but I will say, like, mentally for me, the day after like any of those types of events, I just typically I've gotten to where like I don't weigh, whether or not that's a good or bad thing, just on the day after, just because like mentally I know that it'll mess with me. So like I typically like to wait till the following day to kind of start weighing back in, just because like for me it's a mental game.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm the same way, but like on those days, like I still weigh myself, but I also make a note, like, hey, this is the day after my cheat meal. You know what I mean? Just so I can look back at it and just know. But I do get that as well too. So, some people only like weighing in one time a week, you know, because it messes with their mental, and that's okay too. It sometimes the biggest struggle is 6 inches in between your head. I mean, in between your ears. So it's just mental is what the majority of it is. So, but, but yeah, outside of that, Ren, I don't know if you got anything to input about how your stuff has changed. I know initially you would have a free meal, things like that, and your weight would fluctuate, what, 5, 8 pounds or so. But and I know
Yeah.
here recently it's not been that bad.
No, it hasn't. And honestly, like, I mean, I've been so crazy about trying to eat as healthy as possible at all times, but with the holidays, I mean, it's you hit the nail on the head. It's 100% mental. And for me, I think I finally have gotten far enough in my journey that I'm not letting it get to me anymore. Like, I can't. It's more of a mental struggle for me to like have to deal with telling my wife or my kids like, hey, I'm not going to eat this, or like deal with the in-laws or with my parents, right? That I've finally let go and realized, yeah, it's one day where I'm not going to eat what I would typically eat on a given day, but that's one day that I can that's one day that I can get back. Like, it's not the end of the world. Um, and that's kind of been just like a relationship with food and relationship with knowing that I'm not going to revert back to like the bad habits I had before just from one bad day. So, but yeah, like I think it's gotten better as long as, and what you said about like making sure you're getting your body moving, drinking the water. Like, I mean, you've probably been watching my weight, and like we're not on a cut right now, but like my weight's pretty much held steady for a few months, even with the holidays, and that is admittedly eating poorly in many cases. So, um, yeah, prioritizing protein, getting the steps, getting the body moving, and not stressing. Like, and I say this from experience, like I would stress the second I saw the number go up. And I was kind of the same way, Jacob, where I would almost not want to weigh myself because it would just mess me up mentally. But now I've gotten past that, and it's actually like, okay, it was a bad day. I knew it was going to be bad. But let's go. We've done it before. Let's do it again, right? Keep going. Um, and oddly enough, and I don't think I've ever even mentioned this to you, Austin, but it's almost that same mental battle every time I have a rest day, because no matter what, like no matter even if I like double my step count, like my weight always fluctuates up. So it's just fascinating, but like it's something I've been finally able to get past, and it just takes time and kind of believing in yourself.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I appreciate you sharing that. It's one of them things to where like, yeah, like it might not be the best thing to wake up to, in the morning and say, oh crap, I'm 5 pounds heavier, right? But and I'm not, knocking you, Jacob, for not, weighing yourself. It's more or less like, okay, this is data here, right? And if I was to have to, do this again next week, like for instance, Christmas was last week, New Year's was Eve was yesterday. Like you could think back and say, okay, last week I did XYZ and I kind of ate like this at that Christmas Eve dinner, right? And I was up 4 pounds. Here on New Year's, I'm going to have about the same thing. Like I'm going to eat, kind of similar to how I did earlier in the day. And then at the New Year's Eve party, I'm going to eat maybe a little bit less than what I did last week. It's for me, that's kind of how I see things. It's just like it's like a game, right? It's like, all right, I've done X, Y, Z. Everything here is the same. Let me just see, what happens, right? Because at the end of the day, it is just data. It's just what it is, and it's just the more data and the more data points that you can have to compare and contrast against, it's never a bad thing, I would say. So, but but yeah, so outside of that, Miss Roxanne, I know that you missed the majority of the call, but I do put the replay inside of the group chat as well too. So you'll be able to go back and rewatch me fumble on my words for 10 or 12 minutes, and you'll be able to get the gist on that one too. But outside of that, has anybody else got any questions or anything at all? Or does everybody all that stuff make pretty good sense? Everybody good?
Happy New Year.
Well, cool deal. Yep, same to y'all. It feels like you're about to go work out, man. But
Yes, sir.
all right. Well, yep. I'll talk to you guys later. Miss Roxanne, I'll put this inside of the group chat if you want to rewatch it. I'm not pressuring you to rewatch it, but if you want to rewatch it, it'll be in the group chat. Anyway, yeah. I hope you guys have a great day. And I'll talk to you guys soon. See ya.
Yeah.
Later, brother.